Hello, everyone. My name is Nain Aijaz, and this Capstone project introduces Reggio ABA, a model that combines the evidence-based science of applied behavioral analysis with the child-centered philosophy of Reggio Emilia. Throughout the presentation, I will discuss the problem that inspired this work, key insights from the Harvard Global Public Health Leadership Program, the development of Reggio ABA, and my vision for improving autism services locally, nationally, and eventually globally. My passion for children and learning started at a very young age. While working in daycare settings, I quickly fell in love with how unique every child was and how differently each child's learning experience is. Later, while working at Peabody Terrace Children's Center, a Reggio Emilia preschool at Harvard, I was introduced to a philosophy that views children as capable, curious, creative, and an active participant in their own learning. That experience profoundly shaped my understanding of childhood development. At the same time, I was working with children with special needs, including children with autism, and became immersed in the world of traditional applied behavioral analysis, or ABA. Traditional ABA has helped many children develop important skills, but I observed that much of the learning was occurring through high structured methods. Children often spent significant portions of their day at tables using flashcards, completing predetermined programs, and processing through standardized curriculum. I also noticed that reinforcement systems were often built around external rewards such as stickers, tokens, candy, prizes, or even negative reinforcement. While these tools can be effective for teaching specialized skills, they did not always reflect what genuinely motivated or interested a child. In addition, many of the environments felt sterile, office like, or in a medical nature. Children were spending long hours in spaces that often looked more like clinics than places designed for a childhood, exploration, creativity, and discovery. As I watched these children learn, I found myself asking a larger question. Are we teaching children in the way that children naturally learn best? Children learn through play, relationship, creativity, movement, and meaningful experience. Yet, many of these environments I observed felt disconnected from those natural learning opportunities. That observation became one of the driving forces behind my search for a different approach. I began questioning why child led learning, creativity, and intentional environments were not being used with children on the spectrum. I believed these children deserve dignity, connection, and environment that honors their individuality. In 2016, I began developing and practicing what I eventually created into Reggio ABA, combining behavioral science with educational philosophy. As we began implementing this approach, we saw children become more engaged, motivated, excited to learn. Families reported seeing skills carry over more naturally into daily life, and staff felt more connected to both the children and their work. Over the next decade, these experiences reinforced my belief that autism services could be both effective and joyful. I saw an opportunity to create a model that prioritizes relationship, meaningful experience, and child development while still achieving strong clinical outcomes. That vision ultimately became the foundation of the work we do today. Today, autism affects approximately 1 in 31 children in the United States and an estimated 1 in 127 people worldwide, representing more than 61 million people individually. This dramatic increase in diagnoses has contributed to provider shortage, long wait list, and growing investor interest in the autism industry. As private equity and venture-backed organizations enter the market, concerns have emerged regarding whether business incentives may sometimes outweigh clinical priorities and long-term outcomes for the children and families. These statistics are not just simply numbers. They represent children and families during a critical developmental period. One challenge I repeatedly observed was that many children successfully learn skills in therapy, but struggle to apply those same skills in real life settings. Highly controlled environments can limit generalization. This creates what I call the success gap. Success in a clinic does not always equal success at home, school, in the community. The question became, what if children learn best in environments that look more like the world actually exists and the world we live in? The autism field faces several interconnected challenges. Demand continues to grow. Provider shortages remain significant. Many families feel disconnected from the therapy process, and concerns regarding the quality of care being delivered is very real. Staff burnout and turnover also remains a major issue, often driven by inadequate training, support, and workplace culture. Because children often spend 20 or 40 hours per week in therapy during their earliest years, the quality of that experience matters tremendously. Early intervention is a critical window for development, making it essential that treatment focuses on building meaningful skills that improve long-term independence and quality of life. These challenges highlight the need for more effective and developmentally supportive model of care. If we do not address these challenges, children may experience delayed development progress, reduced communication opportunities, and increased behavioral challenges for the rest of their lives. Families often experience emotional stress, financial burdens, and most importantly, we miss the opportunity to support a child at an age where we could have made a difference. Innovation is urgent because traditional approaches alone cannot meet today's demand. Families are asking for greater transparency. Schools need children who can successfully generalize skills. Providers need sustainable workforce models, and communities need systems that can scale while maintaining quality. Reggio ABA was developed as a response to these challenges. It is child-led, relationship-centered, evidence-based, and driven by empathetic clinical care. Rather than replacing ABA, it builds upon ABA's strengths and integrating principles of Reggio Emilia to create a more developmentally supportive approach. It is important to emphasize that ABA remains the foundation of this model. ABA is one of the most researched and evidence-based intervention for autism. Decades of research, including studies on early intensive behavioral intervention and naturalistic environment teaching, have demonstrated improvements in communication, adaptive skills, learning, social engagement, and school readiness. Reggio ABA does not replace ABA. Instead, it builds upon these established behavior principles while integrating developmental, relationship-based, and child-led learning experiences to create a more natural and meaningful therapeutical environment. Research consistently shows that early intervention can improve developmental, communication, adaptive, and social outcomes for children with autism because children often receive 20 to 40 hours. That quality of experience matters tremendously. Rather than replacing ABA, this is the future. One of the most influential concepts I discovered through the Reggio Emilia philosophy is the idea of three teachers: the child, the adult, and the environment. The first teacher is the child. Rather than viewing children as passive recipients of the therapy, Reggio ABA views them as capable and active participants in their own learning. Their interest becomes the foundation for engagement and skill development. The second teacher is the staff. our psychologists, BCBAs, our RBTs are not simply implementing programs. They are creating learning opportunities throughout the day. Through specialized training, they learn how to create goals into activities children enjoy and use those interests as meaningful reinforcement. The third teacher is the environment. The physical space itself influences the engagement, the learning. Instead of sterile, clinic like settings, we design environments that can encourage exploration, independence, communication, and social interaction. Together, these three teachers create a model where learning is not confined into a table or a therapy room. First, meaningful outcomes happen when families, children, and clinicians work together as partners. The, this creates strong engagement, better communication, and a more supportive experience for everyone involved. Second, the quality of care is directly tied to the quality of the team. Rather than hiring to fill positions, Reggio ABA focuses on recruiting, training, and developing clinicians who align with the mission and the area committed to long-term growth and excellence. One of the biggest lessons I took from the program was that autism is not just a clinical issue, it's a public health issue. Throughout the program, I learned how policy, health, equity, communication, economics, technology, and workforce development all influences health outcome. This shift this shifted my thinking from focusing only on what happens inside the therapy session to considering the larger system that it affects. One of the biggest lessons I took from the program was that autism is not just a clinical issue, it is also a public health issue. Throughout the program, I learned how policy, health equity, communication, economics, technology, and workforce development all influence health outcomes. This shifted my thinking from focusing only on what happens inside of a therapy session to considering the larger system that it affects. I also gained a deeper appreciation of the importance of public trust and communication. Even the best services are ineffective if families cannot access them, understand them, or feel connected to them. These insights helped shape Reggio ABA into more of a therapy model. They helped me view it as a broader effort to improve outcomes, access, and quality of life for children with autism and their families. Throughout the coursework, I learned successful public health initiatives are not built on good ideas alone. They require strong data, measurable outcomes, continuous monitoring, stakeholder engagement, and ability to adapt over time. These lessons challenged me to think beyond creating an effective therapy model. They helped me think about how Reggio ABA can scale responsibly, maintain quality, improve access, and create sustainability for our families. At its core, Reggio ABA combines behavioral science with creativity, intentional environment, and respect for children. Reggio ABA draws from inquiry-based learning. Together, these frameworks support natural learning, reflection, and continuous growth. This framework illustrates our learning process. Ask, watch, follow, expand, and measure. We begin with watching, following the child's interests, expanding, and then objectively measuring the outcome. This case study from our clinic demonstrates the importance of individualized, data-driven intervention. During baseline, the child experienced frequent accidents and limited successful toileting. After toilet training was introduced, progress remained inconsistent despite continuous intervention. However, when the treatment team modified the program to align with the child's individualized needs and motivations by incorporating a preferred sensory item, a clear pattern emerged. Accidents decreased to near zero, while successfully toileting increased and remained stable over time. Here's another case that highlights how Reggio ABA combines developmental milestones with family-centered priorities. In this example, the child was learning to respond to their name, a foundational skill for communication, safety, and social engagement. The data show a clear upward trend from inconsistent responding to sustained performance, nearly 100% accuracy. As the expectations increased from closer distance to 3 feet and then 5 feet away, the child continued to demonstrate mastery, suggesting that the skill was generalized across different settings and different conditions. This was not just a clinic target. This was very important for a child's safety, community, and family. The Harvard curriculum helped me shift my perspective from viewing autism intervention as an isolated clinical service to viewing it as a public health system. The goal is not simply to improve therapy sessions, but to improve systems that support children and families. Meaningful change requires meaningful stakeholder engagement. Children are active participants in their learning. Families become partners in the process. Staff are encouraged to see themselves as researchers and lifelong learners. Beyond the clinic, community partnership is essential. University support, research, and workforce development is needed. Pediatricians need to help identify children early and connect them to the correct services. Advocacy organizations need to help increase awareness. Together, as partners, we can create a strong network for children and families. The rollout is intentionally slow, allowing the culture to develop through thoughtfully rather than forcing rapid change. Learning is made visible through documentation displayed throughout the clinics, helping families and staff see the child's growth. To support long-term sustainability, Reggio ABA principles are integrated into staff training and a clear pathway for career development. Reggio ABA is not intended to be a short-term initiative. It's a long-term commitment to continuous improvement, staff development, intentional environment, clinical integrity, and family engagement. Successful implementation requires more than a good idea. We have already begun the process through research, presenting our findings at multiple research conferences, where we continue to evaluate what is working and where improvements can be made. Evaluation is essential to determining whether the model is creating meaningful impact. We will measure child outcome, communication growth, family satisfaction, real-world skill generalization, staff retention, access expansion, and community partnership. These measures help ensure that we are improving not only individualized outcome, but the system to support these outcomes. Any meaningful innovation comes with challenges. One challenge is helping staff transition from compliance-focused approach to more child-led and collaborative practices. Another challenge involves balancing high-quality environment with financial sustainability while keeping therapy affordable and accessible for families. Finally, rapid growth can threaten consistency if culture and training do not keep up. To address these challenges, we focus on intentional hiring, reflective supervision, leadership accountability, continuous evaluation, and thoughtful growth that prioritizes quality over speed. My long-term vision extends far beyond single clinic. Our vision is to become the most trusted early intervention provider while empowering children, families, and caregivers through Reggio ABA. Our approach is to bring high-quality autism services closer to families through scalable clinical models, telehealth support, workforce development, community partners, and collaborate with government agencies and aid programs. Access to developmental services should never depend solely on a family's income. Medicaid-funded developmental services play a critical role in helping families access medical necessity. Protecting and strengthening these systems is an important part of the health equity and long-term public health outcome. By investing in workforce training, community partnership, telehealth, and educational collaboration, we can bring services to areas that have historically lacked access. Over time, this approach could expand not only across the United States, but also internationally, including regions where autism services are limited, unavailable, or rely on outdated practices. As I conclude, I would like to return to the central idea of this project. Reggio ABA combines the evidence-based science of applied behavioral analysis with the child-centered philosophy of Reggio Emilia. My hope for a future is where every child is viewed not through the lens of limitations, but through the lens of possibility. A future where special needs children have immediate access to high quality developmental care. Thank you for your time, your attention, and the opportunity to share this project passion of ours.